Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday. It's time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, February 17th. It's kind of a lighter week. There's only about 350, 360 titles coming out this Friday. I got 10 on my list to talk about today, though. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for our merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music weekly playlist that we put together, and also the Patreon page. So make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So like I said in the intro, there's only about 350 or so titles coming out this Friday. I got 10 on my list to talk about today. But if there's something I don't talk about on the show today, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what else you're looking forward to. And also, of the 10 albums I talk about, if you're not able to find any of these in your local brick and mortar store, I'll put links down below. All these will be available online. So the first one on the list is one I've been looking forward to since the album first came out back in November. I've held off listening to it until I can get a copy of it on vinyl. But this is the Pretty Reckless Other Worlds. This was this is different. This is not a standard studio album from the Pretty Reckless, which I think they're one of the best newer rock bands of the last several years. If you're unfamiliar with the Pretty Reckless, definitely go out and check them out because they're doing some absolutely great stuff. But this is a compilation of remixes, remastered tracks, acoustic tracks, and covers. So it's definitely different than some of the other stuff that they've done on their studio albums. Like, this is the first time it's been available on vinyl. It's going to run you $20 online, so not a bad price at all. It's definitely one that I'm definitely grabbed this week. And then the next one is one that I was like super disappointed about because they just remastered and re-released all their albums last year, I think it was. But this is Motley Crue, Crucial Crue, the studio albums 1981 to 1989. So this is a box set of the first 5 Motley Crue albums, which, like I said, to celebrate the 40th anniversary, they just reissued all this stuff last year. And a lot of us, including myself, we went out there and bought all these remastered albums. I didn't have all their studio albums, or at least their first 5 studio albums. I think I had maybe 3, and all 3 of them were like older pressings. So sure, you come out with a remastered copy. They're supposed to sound really great. I went and picked up all 5 of them, and they do. They do sound fantastic. I would have held off on buying those had I known this box set was going to come out. So this is going to run you about $175 online, so it's not cheap at all. But it's got all 5 albums on splatter vinyl. All 5 of them look really cool. I think this is going to be a great package. It comes with a great deluxe slipcase that all the albums go into. But like I said, they just reissued all this stuff last year, and a lot of people picked it up. So I don't think this is going to be as big of a mover than it probably should be. But I really wish Motley Crue would have done something and incorporated their entire discography. I think that there's a couple albums that they almost pretend don't even exist. Their self-titled album from 1994 with John Corabi on vocals, I think is a fantastic album. It's a lot of people have hated it, and a lot of people have really kind of bashed on that album over the last 30 years. But I think it really is a good album. I really wish Motley Crue would serve it some justice and actually remaster and put together and actually do a proper release of it. But it's probably something we'll never see, unfortunately. So when I was growing up, my parents were pretty big Chicago fans, so I'm pretty familiar with at least the 70s and the beginning part of the 80s collection from Chicago. So this week you got Chicago 5 being reissued. In my opinion, it's probably one of their best albums, at least from that period. Released back in 1972, it's their 4th studio album. I know it's Chicago 5, but Chicago 4 was a live album, so it kind of threw off the numbering of their albums. Celebrating its 50th anniversary last year, it kind of got pushed back, so it's being released very, very beginning part of this year. It's going to be on gold vinyl. It's a Friday music release, so this thing's going to sound great. It's going to run you about $32 online, so not terrible, but Saturday in the Park was the big hit off of this album, so I'm sure it's one of those albums that a lot of people out there know, at least. I don't have it on vinyl, so it's definitely one I've got to grab. And then you've also got Danzig Circle of Snakes being reissued this week. Circle of Snakes came out back in 2004. It's Glenn's 8th studio album. There's 2 different versions of this that are going to be available. There's a black version and then a clear version. Both of them are going to run you about $30 online. So Circle of Snakes is very different than what Danzig had done in the, I'd say, late 90s, very early part of the 2000s, where Glenn had this almost like industrial sound to his music, where Circle of Snakes was it's almost very reminiscent of that early period from Glenn, where it's almost kind of like a straightforward rock metal kind of sound. If you're not familiar with that album, at least go out and stream it, because I think it's probably, after the first couple of Glenn Danzig albums or Danzig solo albums, I think Circle of Snakes is maybe one of the better ones at post, say, 1995 or 1996. This week you got the new album from Pink being released. This is Trustfall. It's her 9th studio album. It's going to run you up $28 online. Max Martin was involved with the making of this album, so I'm sure it's going to sound fantastic. I am not the biggest Pink fan, so at least I'll go back and stream that one. And then the next one is definitely one I have on my must-have list. I've been wanting this for a long time, and until I started looking up albums for this episode, I didn't even know it was being reissued. I saw absolutely nothing at my local record store or online about this. But this is A Flock of Seagulls, A Flock of Seagulls. This is, of course, released back in 1982. This is their debut album. It's going to be on orange vinyl. It's going to run you about $30 online, so I don't think it's a bad price at all. So this is remastered for its 40th anniversary last year. This is only the second time it's ever been available on vinyl since the 1980s. I think it was 2013. They did like a super limited run of this album. It was on black vinyl, and then this new pressing, that's just those two are the only ones since like 1988 that there's been a pressing of. So, of course, Iran was the huge hit off this album. This, I think, Flock of Seagulls is, I think, pretty widely considered one of the best one-hit wonders of that like early 80s period. But this is actually a really good album. If you're unfamiliar with the rest of it, definitely make sure you check it out. So if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm a big jazz fan. And these Blue Note, Tone Poet, and Classic Series releases have been absolutely fantastic over the last several years. I've discovered so many new jazz musicians and great albums because of these series. You got two more from the Classic Series coming out this week. The first one, this is Horace Parlan, Speaking My Piece. First released back in 1960. I'm not familiar with Horace's work outside of his work with Charles Mingus. So I definitely need to go back and check this one out. It's going to run you $24 online. That's the great thing about these Classic Series releases, is they're actually pretty well priced, I think, considering all the other stuff we're seeing vinyl go for these days. So this is all remastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tape, so I'm sure this is going to sound great. And then the second one from the Classic Series is Jackie McLean, Bluesnik. First released back in 1961. If you're unfamiliar with Jackie, he's one of those great jazz saxophonists, and there's some really great jazz musicians on this album also. You got Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, you got Kenny Drew on piano, you got Doug Watkins on bass. It's just a great lineup. Same thing as the last album, mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. This one's going to be a couple dollars more. It's going to run you $28, but still, I think it's a great price for some great jazz albums. This week, Def Leppard is reissuing their self-titled album from 2015. It's their 11th studio album. This one actually reached number 10 on the Billboard 200, which I was really kind of surprised it charted that high. This is already $40 though online. This is the picture disc also. So it's a picture disc. It's kind of pricey, I think, for a reissue, especially that reissue. I'm not the biggest Def Leppard fans. I think Adrenalize, 1992 was probably their last really good album. Since then, though, I haven't been a big fan of really anything. But to be completely honest, their last two albums I haven't checked out really at all. So I definitely need to go back and check this one out. And then the last one on my list, this is Dio, live in London-Hammersmith, Apollo, 1993. I think this one's been reissued within the last couple of years. This is going to run you $20 online. It's first released back in 2014. It's on red and black marble vinyl. And actually, if I look at my notes here, this was reissued. This is the same reissue that was released last year. Last year was released like a super limited release. I want to say it was only like 500 copies that were released last year. So I think now it's finally getting like a wider release. So this is 10 years after the formation of the Dio band, and just a great lineup. I know Vinny Appice is on here, Jeff Pilson, and then Tracy G. So they do a great set. It's a great live album, and for $20, it's not a bad price either. I think this show was actually the last of the last show for the European leg for their for the Highways tour. That's what it was. But yeah, it's the last date from that tour. So if you're a Dio fan, I think it's definitely worth checking out, because this is a great live set. I think it's probably one of the top live Dio albums I've listened to. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Like I said in the beginning, there's about 350 titles or so coming out this Friday. Let me know what you're looking forward to. I thought there was a lot of really great stuff. I'm definitely going to grab that Pretty Reckless release. Yeah, I'm on the fence about that Chicago one. I might grab that one if I can get that for a couple dollars cheaper. Definitely going to grab that Flock of Seagulls if I can get a copy of that. And, of course, those 2 jazz albums. I think it's going to be a good week for music releases, but let me know what you're looking forward to. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.